When you think of the Minuteman, or at least when I think of the Minuteman, I think of the Revolutionary War, or the militia, the Minutemen. I don't necessarily think of the Lon Humphrey Custom Knives Minuteman. However, that's exactly what I have right here. I don't necessarily think it has anything to do with the Revolutionary War or the militia. However, I do find it to be a pretty nice, well, and this is rare to come out of my mouth, especially considering the overall length and blade length, EDC knife. I do think it's a pretty great EDC knife. And I really don't want to get into too much conversation about it because, well, conversation gets kind of boring after a while. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and drop in your specs, put a bunch of clips in some type of montage type of way with music and all kinds of other stuff, and we'll just take a look at it that way. So with the Minuteman, I'm kind of breaking my own rule. Normally I like a 3.5 inch blade, whether it be folder or fixed for EDC. Well, as you saw with the specs, this has the 4.5 inch blade, 9.25 just about overall, and that's also way out of what I would normally EDC. Normally I like to go 7.5 max. Now, the reason why I'm doing that, the reason why I'm breaking my own rule is because even though this is a much bigger knife, it doesn't feel like it's much bigger. I mean, with that blade height of about maybe an inch, maybe a little bit more, it's really nimble to use even at the most smallest tasks, like cutting into your, what is that stuff they put around plastic bottles, the packaging. Anyway, you'll see that here in just a minute. And the handle, oh man, this handle is extremely comfortable. Now, I caught a video of him kind of discussing the phases that this has gone through, you know, in the process of the design. And the design he had before this, he didn't want that guard. I absolutely am extremely happy that he put the guard there. And the guy who convinced him, well, thank you for that. I'm glad you did. However, this would still be a great and very comfortable knife even without that guard. But in my opinion, that guard makes the world of difference, because I can imagine it without it. It'd be very Puko-like, and there's nothing wrong with that. Pukos are great if you would just get rid of the Scandi grinds on them. With that being said, those are your two main reasons why I'm breaking my rule. This handle is absolutely incredibly comfortable, and the blade itself, it doesn't feel like I have this large, I guess, drawn out massive blade. Even though most knives with a 4-inch blade get EDC'd, they're also much wider and they don't feel as, I guess you would say, nimble. This one does. One other thing, the extra length in this handle, you can see it kind of flares out in the back there. When you come to the chopping part, you'll see it really aided in me chopping. Whether I came back here or I stayed right here, it really aided in the knife to stay in my hand. You'll see. Let's go ahead and check out all those clips.
a big thing right there.
No, you're good. You gotta hit it harder.
I am.
I mean, you're only 5 years old. How much harder can you hit it, huh? Good job. Told you.
That didn't cut very fast.
Now, one thing I don't think this was designed for, at least not necessarily, is bushcrafting. However, it can do bushcrafting tasks pretty well. So, let's check that out real quick too. Why not, right? To wrap up my thoughts on the Lon Humphrey Custom Knives Minuteman, it's a pretty great knife. I mean, it handled every task that I threw at it really, really well. And come on, let's be honest. It comes in CPM 3V. Can you really get any better than that? I mean, That's such a great steel. It's something that I guess people will say, oh, it's overrated, but in my opinion, it's not. In my opinion, it's just a great steel, especially for EDC. You know, anything that you would use for EDC, if you have a long-lasting edge, then why not? And it really isn't that hard to touch up at all. So overall, I really like this knife. Now, I will say, I would love to see this in a smaller package, just to kind of, I guess, pair it with something else. I don't know. That'd be kind of cool to see it in a smaller package, wouldn't it? 3-inch blade, 4-inch handle, something like that. You know, 7.5 inches overall. You know, my sweet spot. Now, granted, even though that is my sweet spot, this is still just a sweet spot filler, just a little bit bigger. So, I don't know. A smaller knife, a smaller Minuteman would be cooler, but I think I would still use this just as much. All right, I guess I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up because they're getting a little rambunctious. I don't know what he's saying. Take it easy, guys, and thank you for visiting me out here in the backwoods.